Welcome back to Lost in Games Unscripted, the semi-regular series where I kind of talk about whatever I feel like talking about in a given time. Lately, it's been a lot of Walking Dead stuff and rewrites. I did a Fallout 4 rewrite video recently, and that one didn't go quite as well. I'm assuming most people out there don't really like the Fallout stuff, or just YouTube has been deciding not to share stuff lately. That's been a thing too. So I don't know. Today we're talking about Walking Dead again, though, because I had a question. Well, kind of a question. It was really a comment that I really liked on the video where I did Telltale Can't Write Villains, where I talked about Telltale and their idiocy. I guess it is idiocy. They weren't very good at writing villains, right? Carver, Joan, they weren't great. I compared them to Negan and talked about him. So that was a fun video. But I had a comment on there from Sendalese 9380. I hope I'm saying that right. It says, "Hi Josh. I wanted to ask your opinion of Mark, and if in your rewrite of season 1 would alter his fate, give him more screen time. Dude was a pretty decent character, and didn't get enough recognition in my opinion. And he seems to be used more as a plot device in episode 2. I think that he would have brought more to the story and lasted a little longer. And it seemed he and Lee were close friends, though there was only so much that we got to see of him in a single episode." And I replied to them, and so we had a couple of back and forth because I really liked the comment and I liked the idea. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit today. You'll have to excuse a little bit. I'm a bit of a mess. I've been working. My daughter's coming home. She's coming home on leave today. So I've been working on getting the house kind of straightened up, and I've got the windows open, so there might be some noise in the background that isn't normal. Just bear with me here. I'm going into a really chaotic couple of weeks, but I wanted to try and get some stuff out there. So I didn't think much about Mark when I was doing the initial rewrite because he's a great character, but he was really only there for like half of one episode. Really, it's not even a full episode, right? He is there in the very beginning. He doesn't really have much going on, and then he gets shot in the shoulder with an arrow, and that's pretty much it for him. Like he winds up his legs become dinner right at the St. John's farm. And so I was thinking about it, and I liked the reply that the Seindale had, that they had an idea that Ben's teacher or friend Travis could maybe take his place, and that got me thinking: what if I would love to have seen? I would have probably done something along the lines, if I was writing it, where if you decided, because you have the choice to save the teacher by cutting his leg off, taking him back, and then he dies, right? Or you choose not to cut his leg off, in which case you have Travis gets shot with a shotgun when he's fighting with Mark over it. I think it was Mark. It might have been Kenny, but I think it was Mark. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. What if instead of having him get shot, though, he just comes back? Him and Ben both make it back. There's no, because you got to think, in the way that I'm talking and rewriting it, I would have changed how the virus works anyway, so we don't need that scene with Ben being like, "You don't know that everybody comes back, that we're all infected," because that's stupid. That was absolutely one of the dumbest scenes. It made sense in the show when Rick was telling everybody, "Hey, Dr. Jenner told me that everybody's infected." Kind of, sort of, because Jenner would have at least had some inside knowledge. But Ben, he doesn't know that everybody's infected. He saw some people that he knew weren't bit that came back. So he just assumed that means everybody's infected. And that's absolutely dumb. Okay, so we're getting rid of that. And well, so if you choose to let the teacher die to the zombies, basically, you bring Travis and Ben back with you to camp. And then a few minutes later, when you're, trying to figure out what, because they wouldn't be rushing back, so it would change some of the attitude a little bit. Although, rather than having the chaos as they're coming out of the woods, you would still have Lily up there saying, "What the hell? They're bringing 2 more people back? What's going on?" So that argument could still take place. The tensions could still be high. Then you could have the St. John brothers come out of the woods and kind of play things out as normal in a way, except Ben and Travis both go with Mark, Lee, Carly / Doug, and I think that was the majority of the group that went initially to the farm. But then, where I would make a change is that Ben would go back with Carly to take the biscuits to watch her back, right? But Travis and Mark would stay with Lee. And both of them would go to help him with the fence because they would say, hey, the more the merrier, the better, we can get it done faster. If there's 3 of us, this is great. So they go out there. Travis gets shot with the arrow. They come back. Travis is the one that winds up being eaten. We've saved Mark to an extent. Mark then winds up in the freezer with everybody else later on, and so he's there trying to help them figure out a way to get out. He's there for the whole Larry situation. That could add an interesting dynamic because he would be somebody that maybe would be on Lee's side if Lee was siding with Lily, right? So he could be there for all of that and being like, hey, Kenny, calm down, man. We need to chill out. Because Mark was very level-headed the whole time, right? And I think that would have been a great balance to see as they go along, because you have Kenny and Lily on 2 extremes, and then you have Lee in the middle, and you have Mark as kind of a balance with Lee. And I think that would be an interesting thing to see play out between the group there and how that would go moving forward, because especially when it comes to how does he react when Lily decides that she doesn't want to be with the group anymore? Because if you remember in my rewrite, we don't have Lily shooting Carly or Doug, right? Lily is angry. She doesn't like what's happening when they have fled the motor inn, and she just decides, you know what? Screw you, Kenny. I'm out. I don't want to be a part of this group anymore. I'm leaving, right? So that kind of wipes all of that out, but then would Mark try to maybe talk her into staying? Would Mark maybe try to get Kenny to calm down? Would he be fine with her leaving because she kind of didn't treat him very nicely, depending on how Lee reacts in the cooler and what he does, or the freezer, depending on what he does, I could see Mark maybe wanting to go off with Lily. Maybe Mark had sided with Lily, wanted to save Larry, thought that they could save Larry, or wanted to at least take their time in the freezer. And Lee decides to side with Kenny, and he wants to go ahead and drop a block on Larry's head. And that could cause Mark to then say, I'm with you, Lily. I'm out of here. These guys are nuts, Or if you sided with Lily, Mark could say, you know what, Lily, you're going to have to, if you want to leave, that's fine, but I'm staying, right? So there's all of those dynamics that I think could play out. That'd be a lot of fun when it comes to Mark's character in that episode and the following episode. Now, down the road, if he stays with the group, he could be a great asset as far as trying to help them get out of Savannah. And maybe, I would have him stay behind with, I can't think of their names. I'll put them up on the screen. Kristen O'Mead. There we go. I would have him stay behind with Kristen and me when Lee goes to the hotel, right? So he would be there in season 2 with Clementine, and you would expand the groups. And now you've got Ben, and you've got Kristen O'Mead and Mark, and then Clementine joins them as we roll into season 2. Mark would be a great voice of reason when it comes to between Kenny and Carver. He could keep that role without Lee. Mark would almost be like the middle of the road Lee when you have Kenny and Carver, with Carver taking the place of Lily within the dynamic. Not in the same way, obviously, they would be very different people, but and then Kenny and then Mark would have to decide how to balance between that and how do you handle that? And maybe your actions as Kenny, because, in season 2 of my version, you're playing as Kenny. So maybe your actions as Kenny directly impact what happens to Mark at the end of season 2, right? Because in my version, the choices actually do matter. You actually can bring people along. People can die or live based on your choices. And at the very end of season 4, you can wind up with a pretty decent sized group. And I would like to see that include Mark. I think along the way, he could be a great asset. He would be a great person in the middle of the road, but he's also very ingenuitive. I don't remember if he was actually in the Air Force or in the military. I know he was found with the rations and stuff, right? So I don't know if he was actually in the military, if he just found those. And I would almost say that it would be great to have some backstory to him where he wasn't in the military, but he's very ingenuitive. He's very good at figuring things out and finding things. And then we could have had him actually maybe help to find food when things get tough later on, right? He could have maybe been a big benefit in seasons 3 and 4 when it comes to fighting with the Delta and the New Frontier and that whole dynamic. And he would be maybe Maybe he could be somebody that's trying to barter peace with them, right? Trying to figure out between the two of them and bringing them together for some kind of a summit, potentially. Like, add a little bit more political intrigue in there, because realistically, at the end of the day, The Walking Dead, it starts off about the zombies, the zombie apocalypse. But at the end of the thing, I think The Walking Dead should be more about the people. It should be more about the survivors. Like Rick says in the show, one of my favorite lines of all time in the show is when they're in the barn and they've got that tornado, that bad storm going on, and he's just kind of doing a monologue to the group. And he says, "We are the Walking Dead. All we're trying to do is survive. We're the ones that survive, and we just do what we have to do day to day. We just trudge along till we finally get to that point where we get to survive." So for me, that's where the game itself would be 4 seasons, full stop. At the end of the 4th season, potentially having a good, strong community where you've got maybe even a couple of communities together, depending on your choices throughout, with maybe Mark playing a big role in how that turns out. I think that could be a lot of fun. It's comments like that, that really get my mind working, get me thinking and excited to talk about certain things. And I love to see that kind of thing. That's why I make these videos. Like, I do these things because I've got my own version and things that I would like to see or that I would have done differently. It's always fun to see what you guys would like to see, what you guys would have done differently. And I love that, because that got me thinking about when we talk about Sendalese. I'm sorry. I know I'm saying that wrong, but when you're talking about characters that I hadn't brought up yet because I hadn't thought about it, like, that gives me all kinds of stuff to talk about, and I love that stuff. So do me a favor, comment down below and let me know what other characters you'd like to see really highlighted and talked about, even small characters that didn't seem to last very long, because in reality, while it makes sense for some characters from a narrative perspective, for instance, it makes sense that Lee would die at the end of season 1. From a narrative perspective, it makes sense that Kenny could potentially die at the end of season 2, that there would be a back and forth with Carver there. Like, there are certain things that make sense from a storytelling perspective, because you can't always have everything be perfect, no matter what choices you make, right? So there has to be some kind of consequences. There has to be some kind of levity and there's something to bring the story back down closer to reality, right? But that being said, if your choices really do matter, you should be able to come out with a lot more than you get. The Walking Dead for Telltale, it was just like, we're going to kill everybody off. It doesn't matter what choices you make. The only character, sans Lily, the only character that makes it to season 4 is Clementine, and Lily only makes it there because they wanted to have a bad guy to bring back and have this big reveal. Like, ooh, look, we're bringing Lily back. Like, it was stupid on their part, really. Bringing her back, if your choices had mattered and you had carried people along the whole way, bringing her back would not have been such a big thing. It would have still made sense. They could have still done it, but it wouldn't have been this like big anchor point for the season, right? That was a huge point for them when they first released it. They were like, look, Lily comes back. They just wanted to kill people off along the way, though. So you wind up where like everybody dies except Clementine. Lily comes back so we can have a story. AJ's there, but AJ doesn't count really because he was a baby in season 2, and he was only kind of a side character. He was he was something to go after in season 3. So he didn't really matter until season 4. So really, Clementine's the only one that really makes sense for the whole thing. I would have loved to see more people brought forward. Clementine and Kenny and Mark and Ben, and you would lose Travis, but Ben would still be there. It'd be cool to have some of these characters still around based on your choices, or have them all die. I think the game kind of took the idea from the show a little too literally. The show was always anybody can die at any time, even though that wasn't really true, because they had some static characters that were going to stay regardless, at least until later seasons. Which is in concept a decent idea for a show, because you could kill anybody off at any time. But in reality, it works out more to, it's just the writers trying to say, hey, things are getting stale. Let's kill off a popular character to make everybody go and come back and watch again, right? It's the same thing with the game. it was things are getting kind of stale. Who can we bring back? Well, season 3, we don't want to go too far off kilter, so let's make sure Clementine's in there somewhere, right? We'll show a little bit of her story with AJ. Season 4, we want to go out with a bang. We're bringing Lily back. Like, it was insane to me. That's that's neither here nor there, though. But I do want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments, and if depending on what you ask, I might make an entire video talking about your comment next. Next week, I'm going to be, well, this week, as this video comes out, this video is probably going to come out on, like, I think Tuesday after Easter is when it'll probably come out live for everybody. It'll be for patrons early, so, you know, Patreon. But, like, this week in particular, I'm spending time with my daughter, my family, so I'm not doing as much. But I'm going to still try to make probably another one of these for next week. I've got the Batman Telltale series that we're getting into in the Philosophy and Ethics and Game series. Friend or Foe is going to be coming back. I'm taking a little hiatus from Friend or Foe just because of my schedule right now. But once my daughter leaves and I get back into a routine, we'll be bringing back Friend or Foe. So we'll have 3 videos a week with the unscripted stuff. So a lot of great stuff happening. And yeah, that's all I've got for this one. I want to thank you all for watching. Everybody have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.